Welcome to the channel. This is Dr. Kesha, and this is actually part 4. It seems like it's going into a series. I'm just updating and giving information with regards to the alleged attempted assassination of Donald Trump during the rally in PA. And so today I want to focus on, or at least in this video, I want to focus on the Secret Service. I want to focus on the shooting, and I want to try to address some of the questions that I've had, as well as some of the questions that others have felt and had, and all the conversations that people have been having on socials concerning the situation. I'm sure people are having the conversation at home as well, because it's been a while since we've actually seen or ever seen, I think in some cases, an attempted assassination of a former president or a sitting president. I don't think any of us have experienced that. I was born in 1971. I'm kind of showing my age here. And so there has not been an attempt that I will say of our knowledge or of public knowledge. It might have been attempts, for decades and years, because only FBI and CIA and all those and the Secret Service, only they would know all the attempted, assassinations. And I'm sure they keep that information far, far, far away from the general public, right? But so none of us have seen it and have experienced it. So I think that as a result, we become a little lax, even though there's been a lot of negative rhetoric. I want to say over the last 15 years or so, there's been strong language that have been used on the campaign trail. Even our presidents have, or the language has been a lot stronger. So so a lot of stuff has really been brewing, but it's just interesting. And so let's talk about it. I found the video. Shout out to Bless God Studios. They do a lot of great work. They happen to have a video talking about a Navy SEAL exposes Secret Service mistake at Trump rally. And so he's interviewing a Navy SEAL, and he's having the conversation and asking questions and volunteering information about his work and job and how things are supposed to be. And he's focusing on the breakdowns in this particular situation and how it looked very amateur. And so he really goes into it, and he really talks about all the things that that pertain to the going ons, like what he observed from the video, obviously that's been circulating, and all the things. So now he's as a professional commentating on his take on what happened during that time. And I know that a lot of people are talking about hoax and all the things, and that somehow that they planned this, and it's all pretend, but yet we have a lot of casualties, right? We have Corey, who was a firefighter that was protecting his family, and in the midst of that, he was shot and killed. We have a couple of other, I think 2 people that were in critical care, and they're no longer in critical care. They were actually featured in, I believe, part 3 of my video concerning this attempted assassination. And then we have Donald Trump also. It was confirmed by a doctor that there was a shot. He was shot in the ear, that it wasn't ketchup, as some people propose, and all these other things. I know how we do, especially us. And when I say us, I'm rubbing on the brown side of my skin, okay? Us. And what we do is we often downplay, and we use levity and all these things, and laughter and jokes, because I think it's a sign of, again, of pre-existing trauma. We always downplay things, and this and that, or they're faking, and we laugh it off instead of taking it seriously. I think that we need to take it seriously. I think the American public needs to take it seriously, because regular everyday people got affected. And I know people say, oh, there are casualties in war. Well, let's avoid that, and let's get to the bottom of this. And, if it was a thing where it was planned and it's a hoax, and then guess what? Someone needs to be held accountable for bringing pain to these families that now have to bury their dead. Okay, someone needs to be held accountable for that. So let's go into the interview. Give me a second. Taking something out of the oven. All right, now I can speak freely. Here I'm smelling my food, and I don't want it to overcook. All right, so I'm back. So let's listen in again. Shout out to, I'm just having a seat, a lot of air in my chair. Shout out to Bless Studios once again. I asked permission to use their video to do a reaction to their video. About that, shout out to, I'm trying to do one thing and I'm doing another. Here, okay. All right, let me calm down. Let me make sure I have my glasses all ready to go so that I can read. But again, shout out to Bless God Studios. I asked permission to use their video, fair use. This is just a reaction to the information that was shared because I really do believe that this needs to be spread as far. I know that he has 160K subscribers, and I think they have like 485 thumbs up, and I'm going to go ahead and thumbs up it. And I think I made a comment on the video as well, but I'll be sure to include a link to his channel in the description so that you can go and listen to it in its entirety. I just want to feature some of the points that were discussed and have the discussion, all right, on my channel. All right. Okay. So let's go. Hopefully I'm at the right spot, which is hopefully at the beginning of this. If not, let's just be a little bit kind and patient with me. Maybe just lighten this up a little bit so I can see it a lot better. All right. Are we ready? Okay, let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with my friend Remy Adioke, friend of the channel. We've had him on a couple times. Remy's background.
Remy Adioke. All right, 1278. All right, is his hashtag there. So go follow him. He's going to give us a lot of information. I believe that's worth listening to as a professional Navy SEAL. All right, here we go.
He is a Navy SEAL, and he has done similar work to what has transpired with the attempt on the president in terms of protective detail. You put up a very interesting tweet that I wanted to go over here with you and get your insight as someone that comes from this background. All
right, so he did post this tweet. It appears to be on X. Yes, it appears to be on X. Let me see if I can find him. But yeah, go ahead and take time to read that tweet or read that post. Let me see if I can find him. Clearly, he indicates in his post that there seemed to be a lax in security. And at the end, he says that it was freaking amateur hour, in his opinion. And this is a person that, has, fought or protected perimeters in volatile war zones, according to his post. Let me see if I can find him. Is this him? No. There he is. All right, I'm going to follow him. All right, he's followed. So I think that, let me see. Yeah, so this was on his X. This was on X. And yeah, so he literally has a picture on here as well. So you know what? Let me try to find it on X. That might even be better, just so that we can have all the different options here. All right, let me find him again on my computer because I just liked it on my phone. And I'm going to scroll down. I just want you to see what I see. Hopefully you see what I see. Let me double check. Yes, you do. All right, so we are now on X, and this is the guy, Remy. Shout out to him. All right, he's a founder, a filmmaker. He's a CEO. He's a WGA writer, a best-selling author, so he is a former Navy SEAL. Nigerian born, okay. Bronx raised, okay. Best-selling author, awesome. Okay, all right. So the comments that he made was it was a day ago. All right, so here it is. So this is what he is showing on the show. All right, his comments that he made on X. And then he gives the picture. So he shows the guy, which is Let me see. Casualty, Trump, the sniper, counter sniper team 1, counter sniper team 2 unconfirmed. And then there's like local police at the bottom. And then there's the guy. So it says 130 yards was the range. Wow. Between the guy and Trump. Whew. Interesting. All right. And so this is his full reaction. And he says here, based on his assessment, that there was a lapse in security and everything appeared to be amateur. Their response time, how they handled the situation. And he says here, like in the middle of his post, the slight turn of the former president's head at the right millisecond is what physically warded the assassination, but unfortunately led to the death of a bystander. Because, like I said, he was hit. And I know that there are a lot of people that believe, it's all games and fun and games. And, oh, they just put a little ketchup on there. He. But y'all, listen, sometimes it's not necessarily about Trump per se, but I'm really looking at the broader scope. I'm looking at the broader picture. I'm looking at others that could potentially be stalked down and hunted and or assaulted. I'm looking at by other bystanders and casualties. You know what I mean? If this is not dealt with properly and if we don't take this seriously, if we just sweep it under the rug and just make it as if it's an isolated incident, I think it's going to be problematic and it's going to send a signal to others to say, oh, it's a go. Like they don't, they're not taking it seriously. You know what I mean? They're not taking it seriously. So we can just go ahead and just wreak havoc now, on our political leaders. Now we know that Biden has way more, security than a former president. But I think that all the former presidents that are currently living, and I think there are more living, I want to say, that actually were alive during my lifetime. There's more living than deceased. Like all of the presidents, I think, for the exception of Reagan, are still alive right now. So that's saying something, and they're all still being protected by Secret Service. So, and we've never heard of any issues, of any problems, of any type of attempt on their life. So this is definitely problematic. And I think what's more surprising about this, and I can't say it, I can't stop saying it, is the mere fact that this person, this young man that did this was a registered Republican. Like that's, I think, what's baffling for me, because it's like, okay, if we're going to go to the narrative of this being a false flag or this was, done intentionally to try to boost ratings or to boost Trump's numbers or to make him look a certain way, and it's a hoax and all these things, then why would someone go to the extreme of risking their life and then harming others? Like, to me, it just doesn't compute. Like, if it was a hoax, then I'm thinking like no one's going to be hurt. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be like, oh, I'll play it off. You know what I mean? It's going to be like a near or something or another, but they're going to shut it down and, whatever. But no, I just, and I'm glad that we're gonna have this expert come on, or he's coming on the show he came on Bless God's Studio show to essentially debunk the whole hoax idea. And because I honestly think that people need to take this seriously, whether you are going to attend any rally of any potential candidate, you need to be on the alert. Like your head needs to be on a swivel. Like, because again, innocent bystanders were negatively impacted by this. They were harmed. and killed. So, with that being said, we should take this seriously. Let me make sure that you see what I see. We're back to the broadcast, and let's listen in and then pause and have the conversation. All right, here we go.
He said lapse in security is an absolute understatement. Holy smokes. When doing PSD in volatile war zones, we were able to lock down.
Okay, so he's going to read the whole thing. So I'm just going to kind of skip over that part. Let me see.
Fewer perimeters better than what we see transpire with the attempt on the president's life. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 100%. So when we were in countries, hostile countries, and we would have VIPs come visit us, and a VIP could be a senator, could be a congresswoman, could be a very high-level general, and they wanted to go to a particular part of the battle space and check things out, or they wanted to go have a meeting with a sheikh or somebody in power, we would be tasked with what's called PSD, which is personal security, detachment, right? And we would essentially, or detail, and we would handle that security for them. Right. And part of that is doing what's called a site survey. In my post, I labeled it a recon, which is the same thing, but it's a site survey. You're going to the beforehand. You're looking at, egress points. You're looking at ways in, ways out. You're looking at elevated structures, elevated areas in general, and you're trying to build out what your plan is going to be as far as moving the subject to the meeting location or the meeting spot and then moving the subject out. So a lot of our work is done up front. So all we have to do is execute on the objective, right? So it's like writing a script, right? The script is getting written. So all you got to do is go to set and shoot the script, right? But you also plan for contingencies as well, because something can always go wrong. And 99% of the time, everything doesn't go as planned. So you have contingencies in place as well. And, part of what we do is going back to the most important part of what we do is to make sure that a potential enemy or potential sniper doesn't have the high ground and does not have line of sight to the target.
Which is weird because, again, in this situation, just kind of going back to the photo that he was so gracious to share, he did have, the line to his target. And, regular civilians pointed it out to the police and security. Several people said, hey, there's somebody up there with a gun. So it's just kind of weird how they weren't dealt with before they started shooting, when there was an opportunity for them to be neutralized and they weren't. So he's going to talk more about that. But when you just look at this picture, and let me try to see if I can blow it up a little bit so that you can see it, so that we all can see it. Because here it's super duper scary. Like, yeah. Wow. I'm trying to see. So they're saying that the guy was here. That red strip is the guy that was actually shot by one of the snipers. And I'm assuming it was Team 1 that neutralized him. But he still, again, was able to shoot somebody on this side of the stage, shoot somebody on this side of the stage, and then ultimately someone was deleted from the timeline, if you will. And that's sad to me. But yet everyone saw him, you know what I mean? And I think that's the issue, I think, with most people that are looking at this critically. Like, what happened? And so this gentleman that is being interviewed is kind of filling in the blanks. And I'm so grateful that he's on here and having that conversation. And hopefully other people would step out and be interviewed on, a bigger platform, so that they can explain what their assessment is on the situation. Just like this gentleman immediately made a comment on X saying, yo, this is amateur. Like, what happened? Like, y'all clearly didn't do your job. And so he's going to go into that a little bit more deeper. Okay, so let's listen in.
If we can't lock down every building in the area, which, it can be likely in a lot of cases, right? Especially when you're in another country, what we will do is we will pick a specific route and go in a specific direction and allow the subject to exit in a way where they're not in the line of sight of a potential target, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a good example of that would be, and I'm just using just a basic example, if instead of having the subject exit their vehicle in front of Trump Towers, let's just use that as an example, get out of their vehicle and then go inside and do their business, right? And wave and shake hands and kiss babies. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to do is we're going to go around to the back. There's going to be a garage. We're going to enter into the garage, go down. The entire garage area is going to be essentially locked down, and we're going to take them out of the vehicle and move them to where they need to go, right?
Yeah.
We are decreasing the line of sight significantly by doing that, right? Because sometimes you don't have the opportunity to, as I mentioned, lock down every high elevated position. But why? Because you don't have the bodies to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you might have a drone, which was surprising that they didn't have drones up or helicopters up in order to, eyes in the sky to point things out, which that was a failure in and of itself.
But see, here's the thing. I think that has a lot to do with the lackluster of how we do things now. You know what I mean? I just think that people are not taking this like super seriously. Like we take things for granted all the time. And I think the former presidents take it, again, unless they've been privy to know, like for Obama, I'm kind of curious to know like how many threats were on his life. You know what I mean? So let's say if he was, privy to that information, or if they did share with him these types of things, then yes, he probably is going to tighten it up a little bit because he's aware that there's been attempts on his life. But in the case of Trump, I don't know if that was ever shared or whether he was ever knowledgeable of that, because you would think that if a person ever knew that or felt as if there was an opportunity there or a potential of something like this happening, they're going to move accordingly. And I feel like with us, I feel like a lot of us just take things for granted. We have all these things going on. We have all these events going on, large gatherings. We want it. The larger, the better. But there's no real securing the parameter. You know what I'm saying? There's no taking it seriously by having the proper security. We just, again, take things for granted that everybody's cool and legit. And if you're here, then that must mean you're for me. And that's not necessarily the case. All right, so let's go back to the interview.
To say that they didn't have those resources is unbelievable because, even in some cases, we would have access to a drone where we didn't have enough eyes to have eyes on, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So that's essentially what I was saying on the first part of that post is that, a big part of it is if you don't have the bodies, creating a path for the principal
mm-hmm.
where they can get from point A to point B or get to point B, stay in point B without having someone with the capability of having line of sight.
Gotcha.
Right?
So here you go on to say good-ish on the protectors who did their job after the fact. But looking at this tactically, whoever was in charge of the recon planning, positioning, and prep for this, and the current POTUS and other principals under their care needs to be fired. Freaking amateur hour. And so we have a graphic here where we have the president over here. We have the that probably did the shot of neutralizing the target, and then we have potentially the second sniper. And this dude is within 130 yards. Now, I told you, Remy, we just went shooting with some SEALs in San Diego just a couple of days ago, and we were shooting 200 yards away with a scope and had never shot before, and we're hitting like multiple hits out the rip, no training, just hopping on a scope, bang, 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 just we just hear the ding, ding, right? And so the fact that he was able to get this close to the president from your vantage point, 130 yards, which is a little further than a football field away, is you're saying like this is a complete security breach that anybody allowed this to happen?
100%. I mean, that's the equivalent of allowing somebody to go through TSA with a canister full of gasoline.
Let's talk about it. Like, I really do think that he's making extremely valid points. And again, who am I? I'm not Navy SEAL trained, right? But immediately within my heart, I'm like, huh? Like, how is this allowed to happen? Like, how is this able to happen? Like, that was the first thing that came into my mind. I immediately began to think, if civilians saw the dude with the gun way before he shot it, nobody else saw it. Nobody else saw. So yes, I have to agree. I do have some concerns also. It's clear, it's more clearer and clearer that there was a ball dropped or two. And I think that somebody does need to be fired. I do agree with that. All right. So let's listen. Let's go back to the interview.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, come on, we're not going to check any liquid in it. No, I don't have any liquid in it. Okay, just go ahead. Right? Like, I didn't do anything. Right? Yes, that was an absolute failure. That building, not just that building, not just that elevated position, but any and every elevated position that was in the line of sight of the president, former president, should have been locked down. To not lock that down, especially within 150 yards, I mean, shoot, you can go back to 300 yards. I mean, that's an absolute failure. Like that, like there's no way to cut it. And a site survey was done. I mean, this map that we're looking at now, those guys probably had better maps. Everybody were all read into the location. They knew where everything was.
Okay, so here he says mapping was done. So I really want us to walk away from this discussion, this conversation, knowing that the mapping was done. We see the map, it was done, but yet they did not have the parameter and everything secure. They did not have it secure, because if they would have had it secure, old dude wouldn't have be able to, get up on that building and be in position like that and be able to even hit casualties, let alone the president. You know what I mean? That's how tight it should have been. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And then we're having this, what is it? They call it like backseat quarterback, Monday quarterback conversation, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Now we're having to reanalyze things and have these conversations while people are planning other people's funeral. And it's sad. It's sad. This should not be, but this is where we are. So let's hear what else he has to say, because he said a lot. So I'm going to share just a little bit more, and then I'm going to end this because I don't want the live to be too long, but I definitely want you to go back and check out the video, watch it in its entirety like I did. Just go to Bless God Studio. We'll listen to a little bit more, add a little bit of commentary, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring this video to a close.
So to not have to have that area dropped like that, it's either absolute incompetence or intentional. It's a fine line between absolute or intentional, because that's just basic. It's like not allowing somebody to go up to the president with a hand in their hand, right? Sure. They could have done as much damage as a AR-15, if not, as an AR, 130 yards away with a scope.
Yep. Now we're going to talk about the incompetence.
Wow. So he says incompetence or intentional. That's where he is. Either they intentionally dropped the ball or it was extreme incompetence. Now he's going to go on later on and he's going to talk about the security that is assigned to Trump. And he goes on to say how, let me see if I can try to speed on, because I think they're going to show some visuals as well. I'm just going to kind of skip through some of this because they're going to show the whole thing again, and he's going to stop and talk about some of the things. Like some of the things he talked about was the fact that the president wasn't covered. Like you can still see his head, which would have, if there would have been another gunman present, if it would have been multiple people, a group, that somebody else would have had an opportunity to take a shot at him. So it's like he said, like here, you see like all of the Secret Service men and women covering up. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to literally make a circle and cover him up. Like he's not supposed to be seen. And he even said, like, even down to the person that took the picture. I think whoever was taking pictures, like literally snapped a shot. It was like an iconic shot of him like praying or he was down on his knees or something like that. The mere fact that that photographer had access to take that shot, he said, is an extreme concern. The mere fact that the camera, we're cheering on and looking at the pictures and we're like, whoa, that was some great pictures taken. He should not have been, if it's a he or she, whoever was the camera person, should not have been there to take the pictures in the first place. The whole area should have been secured. No one should have been close enough to be able to take that type of picture, And then he says, like, even down to the women, and he makes a really strong point, and it doesn't have anything to do with gender per se. It just has to do with, he was saying, like, the optics. For example, I think Trump is 6'3" in height. And then I don't know how much he weighs, but he's a big guy, right? And he was saying that if you're that large of a person, then you need large people that, number one, are able to cover you, and B, they're able to kind of pick you up if need be, move you around, handle you. And it seems like with this particular detail, let me just move it forward. There's a couple of women there. There's a woman that's in front, and he's saying that she's not even tall enough to cover his face. And just lifting up a hand is not sufficient. So he was saying that as much as we want to include the women, if they're not the right size and height, then they wouldn't be appropriate. You know what I mean? As far as the right detail for this particular president, maybe for a first lady or something like that, but not for this particular president. So he really does break it down. Like, and I think, I don't see if they have that other picture there in here, like all of this, all of the stuff, the mere fact that he wasn't covered. And I think he talks about some of the women really having like malfunction with their like suits, and they're trying to figure out how to put the gun in the holster, and she's not able to do it without looking down. And he was saying that that's another, slight to them being amateurs. You know what I'm saying? And so he really speaks to the notion of, again, having the right, the right fit being assigned to these our iconic figures, our political leaders. Yeah, so he makes really great points when having the discussion about the detail, and saying that unfortunately, and again, the reason why they have these pictures is because the photographer is just standing right there. Like, he said that the photographer should have been moved out of the way as well. So, I do find it problematic. I think the gentleman made some great points. I want to encourage you to go check out the video. I'm going to be sure to drop a link in the description section so that you can go watch it for yourself and go like the video and support the channel. I think this is a really great conversation, and I'm really hoping, like, Roland Martin and other, like CNN and Fox or whatever, all these networks, hopefully they're having the conversation about the bulge being dropped. I think that's the broader conversation. Forget the hoax, you know what I'm saying? Forget the conspiracy. Let's talk about the ball that was dropped. Let's talk about the amateur work that happened here. Let's talk about Trump not having the right type of security detail and the right people suitable to really protect him. Let's talk about, to me, let's broaden the conversation. You know what I mean? Let's broaden the conversation, because if it's not Trump, then it's Biden. If it's not Biden, then it's Harris. If it's not Harris, it's the newly selected vice president of Trump. If it's not him, it's Obama. If it's not Obama, it's the Bushes. If it's not the Bushes, you know what I mean? On and on and on. Like, again, it's our job is to protect our leaders, or whoever we deem vital and important and U.S. treasures. So yeah, we need to do better with this. I know everybody wants to do the hoax, and it's a good key, but let's broaden the conversation. Let's elevate the conversation to what's really going on based on what we see. Now, listen, I love a good conspiracy like the next, but I'm going to be peeping what I see with my eyes and what I discern in my spirit. Okay, because he said you're supposed to really determine a tree by the fruit that it bears. So God never told us to disconnect or disassociate with what we see. We're supposed to associate what we see in addition to, be in commune with our spirit man and with the Holy Spirit, so that he can lead and guide us in the way that we should go. So let's look at what we see. Let's analyze the pictures. Let's really begin to talk about what happened so that we can learn from it and we can govern ourselves accordingly. I hope they didn't go to the next rally just all willy-nilly and not, you know what I mean, really have a come to Jesus moment. I really hope that they didn't do that. But I'm not sure, because like I said, I don't follow his campaign at all. Okay, well, maybe because we know President Biden is secure. We know that he has the best of the best because he is the president. But the former president and others need to be on their A game as well, because again, we're in a hostile time. I'm sorry. I think this is probably just based on the social media rhetoric. It's pretty hostile out here. There's a lot of disgruntled people, a lot of angry people, a lot of miserable people, and everybody has their side. And that's, I think, has always been the case because, politics is like a sport, and so that is to be expected. But I think that some people are taking this a little bit too far, a little bit to the extreme. And it's very sad and very unfortunate. So that's pretty much all that I got. I'm going to make sure that I share the links, number one, to Bless God Studio, because if it wasn't for, did I subscribe? I'm going to subscribe as well. I'm going to make sure I want to copy this video as well as the X post. And I followed the gentleman there on X as well, because I'm really interested in what he has to say about this. And I'm going to be retweeting his tweets, because I think that we need to broaden the conversation, right? I think we really do. I think that we need to look beyond, all the other stuff, all the noise, and let's look at the facts. Let's figure out how this happened in the first place, right? I think that that's important for everyone's safety, for everyone. All right. God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in yet again. Please make sure to feel free to make a comment, subscribe, share if you feel inclined. And I guess that's it. Have a wonderful evening. Until next time. Bye.